Force the vote, sure, was a failure. 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 Force the vote, sure, was a failure.
I should say something about
Force the vote, sure, was a failure.
And why we're
Force
doing
the vote,
this,
sure, was a failure.
and kind of what we had in
Force the
mind.
vote, sure, was a failure.
Force
the vote, sure, was a failure.
Originally,
Force the vote, sure, was a failure. 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 Force the vote.
Early in the morning, they went to the table with the black robe, the black shield, and they pulled out the votes. Those votes were put there a number of hours before.
Force the vote, sure, was a failure. Force the vote, sure, was a failure.
$7 million
Force the vote, sure, was a failure.
Fish
Force the vote, sure, was a failure.
$25 billion to
Force the vote, sure, was a failure. Force the vote, sure, was a failure.
To count the
Force the
number
vote, sure, was a
of
failure.
amberjack fish.
Force the vote, sure, was a failure. 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 Force the vote, sure, was a failure.
And addressed by progressive
Force the vote, sure, was a
they won't
failure.
come out and address Bree's
Force the
audience
vote,
or
sure, was a
Katie's
failure.
audience or Justin
Force the vote,
Jackson
sure,
or
was a
you.
failure.
They are not
Force the
accountable
vote,
to
sure,
us.
was a failure.
They're accountable
Force
to
the vote,
whoever
sure,
the
was a
fuck
failure.
themselves.
Force
Let's
the
not
vote,
kid
sure, was a
ourselves.
failure.
As Chris
Force
Hedges
the
taught
vote,
us
sure,
a long
was a
time
failure.
ago, the people
Force
attracted
the
to
vote, sure,
politics
was a
are the most
failure.
mediocre of
Force the
people.
vote, sure,
They're
was a
not your
failure.
friends.
Force the vote,
They
sure, was
are
a failure.
elected servants.
Force
and
the
start
vote, sure,
fucking
was a
treating them
failure.
that way.
Force the vote, sure,
I
was
hear
a
Brownie
failure.
is
Force the
seconding you
vote,
in the
sure, was a
background.
failure.
They're not your fucking
Force the vote,
friends.
sure, was a failure.
They're the people standing in
Force
between
the vote,
us
sure,
and
was a
fucking
failure.
healthcare.
Force
They're
the vote,
putting
sure,
their
was a
fucking
failure.
personal position
Force the vote,
ahead
sure,
of
was a
that.
failure.
Don't fucking forget
Force
that.
the vote, sure, was a failure. Force the vote, sure, was a failure.
I'm
Force
talking
the
about
vote, sure, was a
anybody who's a
failure.
progressive in Congress
Force the
who
vote,
isn't
sure, was a
endorsing
failure.
hashtag the vote. All
Force
those
the vote, sure, was a
motherfuckers
failure.
who didn't show up,
Force
who
the
isn't
vote, sure,
endorsing
was a
hashtag
failure.
the vote, who
Force
isn't
the vote,
endorsing
sure, was a
hashtag the
failure.
vote. All those
Force the vote, sure,
motherfuckers
was a
who didn't
failure.
show up today
Force
at our
the vote,
town
sure,
hall.
was a failure.
Every fucking one of
Force
them
the vote,
is
sure,
selling
was a
you
failure.
out and canceling
Force
you
the vote,
for
sure,
their
was a
own
failure.
personal gain.
Force the vote, sure, was a failure.
They're not accountable
Force
to
the vote,
anyone.
sure, was a failure.
I get 10 to 12
Force the
million
vote,
views
sure,
a
was a
month,
failure.
and they won't come out and
Force
address
the
my
vote, sure, was
progressive
a
audience.
failure.
They won't come out and
Force
address
the vote,
Bree's
sure, was a
audience
failure.
or Katie's audience
Force
or
the vote,
Justin
sure, was a
Jackson
failure.
or you.
Force
They
the
are
vote,
not
sure, was a
accountable
failure.
to us. They're
Force the vote,
accountable
sure,
to
was a
the
failure.
whoever the fuck
Force the
themselves.
vote, sure, was a
Let's
failure.
not kid ourselves.
Force
As
the
Chris
vote, sure,
Hedges
was a
taught us
failure.
a long time ago.
Force
the
the
people
vote, sure, was a
attracted to
failure.
politics are the most
Force the
mediocre
vote, sure,
of
was a
people.
failure.
They're not your friends.
Force the vote, sure, was a failure.
They are elected
Force the
servants.
vote, sure, was a
Stop
failure.
fucking treating them that
Force
way.
the vote, sure, was a failure.
I hear Brownie is
Force the vote, sure, was a
seconding you in
failure.
the background.
Force
They're
the
not
vote,
your
sure, was a
fucking
failure.
friends. They're the people
Force the
standing
vote,
in
sure, was
between
a
us
failure.
and fucking healthcare.
Force the vote, sure, was a
They're putting
failure.
their fucking personal
Force the vote,
position
sure, was a
ahead
failure.
of that. Don't
Force the
fucking
vote,
forget
sure, was a
that.
failure. Force the vote, sure, was a failure. Force the vote,
I'm
sure,
talking
was a
about
failure.
anybody who's a
Force
progressive
the
in
vote,
Congress
sure, was a
who isn't
failure.
endorsing hashtag
Force
the
the
vote.
vote, sure,
All
was a
those
failure.
motherfuckers who didn't
Force the
show
vote,
up
sure,
today
was a
at our
failure.
town hall.
Force
Every
the vote,
fucking
sure, was
one
a
of them
failure.
is selling you out
Force the vote,
and
sure, was a
canceling
failure.
you for their own
Force
personal
the vote,
gain.
sure, was a failure. Force
They're
the
not
vote, sure, was a
accountable to
failure.
anyone. I
Force
get
the vote,
10
sure,
to
was a
12 million
failure.
views a month,
Force
and
the
they
vote,
won't come
sure,
out
was
and
a
address
failure.
my progressive audience.
Force the
They
vote,
won't
sure,
come out
was
and
a
address
failure.
Bree's audience or
Force the vote,
Katie's
sure, was a
audience or
failure.
Justin Jackson
Force the
or
vote,
you.
sure, was a
They
failure.
are not accountable to
Force the
us.
vote, sure, was a
They're
failure.
accountable to the
Force
whoever
the
the
vote,
fuck
sure, was a failure.
themselves. Let's not
Force
kid
the vote,
ourselves.
sure, was a failure.
As Chris Hedges taught us
Force
a
the
long
vote,
time
sure,
ago,
was a failure.
the people attracted to
Force
politics
the
are
vote,
the
sure,
most
was a
mediocre
failure.
of people.
Force
They're
the
not
vote,
your
sure, was a
friends.
failure. Force
They
the
are
vote, sure, was a
elected
failure.
servants. And start
Force the
fucking
vote,
treating
sure,
them
was a
that way.
failure. Force
I
the
hear
vote, sure,
Brownie
was a
is
failure.
seconding you in
Force
the
the vote,
background.
sure, was a
They're not
failure.
your fucking friends.
Force the vote, sure,
Dumb
was a
people,
failure.
liberal people.
Force the vote, sure,
Dumb
was a
people,
failure.
liberal people.
Force the vote, sure, was
Dumb
a
people,
failure.
liberal people.
Force the vote, sure, was a
Dumb
failure.
people, liberal
Force
people.
the vote, sure, was a
Dumb
failure.
people, liberal
Force the
people.
vote, sure, was a
Dumb
failure.
people, liberal
Force the
people.
vote, sure, was a
Dumb
failure.
people, liberal
Force the
people.
vote, sure, was a failure.
Dumb people, liberal
Force the vote,
people.
sure, was a failure.
Dumb people, liberal
Force the vote, sure,
people.
was a failure.
Dumb people, liberal
Force the vote, sure, was a
people.
failure.
Dumb people,
Force the
liberal
vote, sure,
people.
was a failure.
Dumb people,
Force the
liberal
vote, sure,
people.
was a
They're
failure.
not accountable to
Dumb
Force the
people,
vote, sure, was a
liberal
failure.
people.
10 to 12 million views a
Dumb
month,
people,
and they won't come
liberal
out and address
people.
my progressive audience. They
Dumb
won't come-
people, liberal people.
Hello, users, and welcome to another episode of the Goddamn. I am your host. We got Max the dog here as well, in the background, woofing it up. Goddamn dog, folks. Let me just tell you, it's a goddamn dog. Hopefully everyone is having a good day. I am feeling decent. If anyone didn't watch my stream from last night, I played Silent Hill 2. I'm going to continue to play Silent Hill 2 tonight. As you can see, Castlevania is in there because I played that previously. I know, right? But so we're going to be playing some more Silent Hill 2. It's got a colored manual. I mean, that's pretty cool. Look, check this out. Metal Gear Solid 2 is coming out soon, apparently. That's nice. We've got a colored manual. We got consumer support if you need it. I am a consumer, and I probably will need support at some point for my consumption. But as of this current moment, we're going to be playing Silent Hill 2 again. And by we, I mean me. You're not playing it. I am. So going to be playing some Silent Hill 2 tonight at 7:30. That's right, 7:30, I will be playing Silent Hill 2, so. 7:30 p.m. Eastern goddamn time. Oh no. Maybe you will also be playing Silent Hill 2 tonight. That's very possible. I mean, I hope you do. It's a good game. Is Gravity winning here? Is this microphone like slowly falling? I think it's good. All right. So, got some coffee. Did I comb my hair? I haven't brushed or combed or whatever my hair in several days. I've actually got like a big knot in the back of my head right now. And it's a problem. So, but I'm working on that. How many drinks have I had so far today? 0. I know yesterday morning I started the show by consuming whiskey. I am out of whiskey over the course of yesterday. I ran out and I have no more. So, this is seltzer. You're losing your hair. Oh no. I don't want to lose my hair. I like my hair. Neater than usual. Well, it's probably just because I put the headset on and so it's like staying in place. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. So, whatever. Whatever. Ooh. You lost all your hair at 28. Oh, Lord. All right, y'all. So, I've got an update to you in regards to the police murder of Andrew Brown Jr. here in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. This is an article from the Daily Beast, which outlines some new details that were released yesterday. And so I want to get into these details because it's important. And from what I have been saying for the last 206 days or so, I have been covering this story every single day. And you can go back and you can watch me say and tell you that there's a cover-up going on. Why are they not releasing body camera footage from before and after the shooting? Why are they only specifically editing the body camera footage to remove certain parts? That is a sign of a cover-up. If they had nothing to hide, the body camera would have been released day one. Look at the murder that happened very shortly before Andrew Brown Jr. was killed. There was a murder of a teenage girl in Ohio. They released the body camera footage of that attack because, she had a knife. And so they could spin it and make it look like the cop was in self-defense or whatever, right? That is not the case here. You see all across the country, if body cam footage can be exculpatory in any way, they will release it as soon as possible. Why didn't that happen with the case of Andrew Brown Jr. in Elizabeth City, North Carolina? It didn't happen because they have a lot of things to hide. So I want to read this. A deputy sheriff involved in the shooting death of Andrew Brown Jr., an unarmed black man sitting in a car outside his North Carolina home, allegedly removed the bullets from his pistol in an attempt to cover up the extent of his actions while, quote, stressing out about how many times he fired his weapon, according to a bombshell federal court filing. Again, how many times do we all need to sit there and tell you when they don't show the body camera footage, it's because they're hiding something? Now, I want to remind you, before I read the rest of this article, for those of you that are new here or that you're seeing the breaking news, right after the shooting, Deputy Meads, Morgan, and Llewellyn got paid vacation. They got to sit with their ankles up on the coffee table and watch Netflix and Hulu for weeks and weeks and weeks while the government, our tax dollars, was being funneled into their bank accounts. That was their reward for murdering Andrew Brown Jr. That was their reward. They're bounty hunters. They're assassins for hire. But not only did they get a month's worth of paid vacation, they also got a raise. That's right, folks. The Pasquotank County Board of Commissioners voted to give them a raise. Every sheriff deputy in Pasquotank County got a pay increase, a salary bonus after murdering Andrew Brown Jr. So again, they have been trying to cover this up, and it's not a situation where they're just trying to go back to business as usual. They're funneling our tax dollars into paying for these assassins and murderers. And again, we are now finding out just how incompetent they really are. It only takes 8 months to become a sheriff deputy in Pasquotank County. How many months does it take to do literally anything else in training? How many months does it take to become a teacher? Or a firefighter? I don't know. All I know is for 8 months, all you have to do is go to summer camp, and then you can get a government-authorized gun and kill whoever you want and get away with it, and then collect paychecks while you sit at home, and then get a salary increase. That sounds pretty easy, and you can do all of that in less than a year. Anyone watching, there's a career opportunity. Go to Pasquotank County, become a cop, kill an unarmed black man, and boom, several months of paid vacation time. You don't have to worry. What the fuck kind of society is that? If I worked at Food Lion, I know I say this a lot, and I just got a box cutter and just stabbed a grandmother who was shopping for Thanksgiving 17 times in the back, would I get paid vacation? Would I get a salary increase? No, I would be in a fucking jail cell. But hey, when you're a cop, anything goes. Let's continue. An amended complaint for damages filed October 28th by a lawyer representing Brown's family claims investigator Daniel Meads of the Pasquotank County Sheriff's Office tampered with evidence after becoming nervous that he may have gone too far in shooting at Brown as the 42-year-old tried to escape the fusillade, that's a very nice word, of gunfire. Now, again, I want to remind you, they shot, and it could have been Meads who shot, a neighbor's house. Now, again, they're performing a search warrant. They shoot someone running away dozens of times. Stray bullets hit their own vehicles. They shot themselves. Unfortunately, the vehicles took the bullets and not the fellow deputies. But also, they shot into a neighbor's house. Someone who had nothing to do with Andrew Brown Jr., nothing to do with drugs, nothing to do with the search warrant, almost died because these stupid motherfuckers decided to fire willy-nilly. By the way, should I remind you, it was in a school zone. They were shooting at a school zone. Several of the bullets were in the pathway of the school down the street. At 8:30 in the morning, they were shooting into a school zone. Neighboring houses got shot up by these fucking psychopaths. Defendant Meads fired approximately 7 9mm rounds from his Glock 17 into Brown's moving vehicle. The amendment states, at no time were any members of law enforcement in any imminent threat of harm or injury by Brown or his vehicle that warranted Defendant Meads to fire approximately 7 times into Brown's moving vehicle. Brown was killed in April by a bullet to the back of the head. He died on the sidewalk as emergency responders attempted to perform CPR. What this article doesn't say is that they left him on the street for hours. Hours. 2 other officers also fired at Brown during the fatal encounter, which began with cops descending on Brown's home to serve an arrest warrant on drug charges. That is not true. They had a search warrant. So if anyone wants to send Daily Beast an update here. Based on a tip from a confidential informant. Now, there's a lot of other things about that I could go into, but I'll do that later. One of the officers who has identified in the lawsuit as Deputy Sheriff Robert Morgan fired 5 rounds into Brown's moving vehicle from an AR-15 Bushmaster rifle. According to the amended complaint, the other, Corporal Aaron Llewellyn, shot at Brown's car 4 times with his Glock handgun, it states. I want to remind you all that they rode on the back of a pickup truck with assault rifles at the ready to serve a search warrant. At the time, Pasquotank County District Attorney Andrew Womble justified the shooting, saying that Brown's vehicle was headed, quote, directly toward one of the deputies. However, after viewing body camera footage from the scenes, lawyers for the Brown family say it was clear that Brown posed no threat to any of the officers, never made contact with them, that they had been ambushed. Again, we do not live in the science fantasy fiction world where the axles on the car can, within like half a second, spin and then the car will start driving sideways. We don't live in that world. We live in the world where axles are in place and the car goes forward or backward. So if you are on the side of the car and you reach out and touch the car, again, we don't live in the fantasy world where Andrew will press the big red button and then the axles spin and then the hovercraft activates and he ran. That's not the world we live in. If you are having your hand on the side of the car can move forward or backward. It cannot move sideways. There was no imminent threat. He could not have been driven into. It is physically impossible. But that was their justification for shooting Andrew Brown Jr. Of those who were there, only Meads tried to conceal his involvement in the deadly shooting, the amendment alleges, explaining there was no indication that Brown was armed. During a subsequent search of Brown's house, Meads asked a Kitty Hawk police detective on the scene to shine his flashlight on Meads, who was standing in a dark room, so Meads could count the remaining rounds in his magazine of his Glock 17. According to the filing, the detective later told investigators that Meads had been stressing out about how many times he fired his weapon at Brown's vehicle. Meads removed the magazine from his Glock and counted the bullets, the filing states, adding that he later removed all the bullets from his magazine while en route back to the sheriff's station. In an interview with investigators, Meads eventually confessed that he altered the gun he used to shoot at Brown's vehicle, according to a filing, but only after it was depicted on another officer's body camera footage that he had removed the magazine from his weapon before handing it over as evidence. According to defendant Meads, he only wanted to count his bullets, it says. So he knew he fucked up. And then, when he realized another sheriff deputy caught him on camera fucking up, he then tried to cover it up even further. 2 other officers on the scene did not fire their weapons at Brown's house because they had been briefed earlier that he would likely be unarmed. They knew going in that Brown was a non-violent person and did not have any history of violence or owning weapons. They knew that. You can't tell me that only one of the officers knew that. You can't tell me only some of the officers knew that. If one knew it, they all knew it. And if one officer or 2 knew it and didn't tell the others, while the others were polishing the barrels on their fucking assault rifles, hey, by the way, this guy's likely not going to have any weapons. Oh, well, I was just loading in 15 magazines into my assault weapon. So now that you told me they're not going to have a gun, maybe I don't need that anymore. Huh? So that's negligence. Oh, Andrew Brown Jr. doesn't have any weapons. I'm going to keep that to myself, as Robert Morgan is currently masturbating with his assault rifle, ready to shoot and kill someone. I'm just going to keep that info to myself. I don't fucking think so. They all knew he had a history of nonviolence. They all knew he was not likely unarmed. He was unarmed. Everyone knew that there. Give me a fucking break. And he posed no immediate danger to them while attempting to flee. The amended lawsuit explains. The filing comes about 5 months after attorneys for the Brown family filed their original $30 million lawsuit alleging deputies had unlawfully used deadly force against the unarmed man. Womble, the Pasquotank district attorney, by the way, who's running for a judge position in the next election. He is running to become a judge. So he's trying to level up from district attorney to a judge. Imagine Andrew fucking Womble sentencing your child, your brother, your mother, your cousin to a jail sentence. Imagine how harsh these sentences will be. Imagine how unnecessary the punishments he will give out for things like marijuana possession. Because, yeah, we live in North Carolina. Marijuana is illegal. When I had my court case, the judge there, who's a piece of fucking shit, by the way, I believe his name was Barnes, would hand out extremely long prison and jail sentences to people for marijuana possession. Could you imagine what kind of psycho shit Andrew Womble would do in a state where marijuana possession can land you in jail? But we'll see if he wins that election. Asserting the shooting was consistent with the officer's training and fully supported under law. The 3 who were placed on administrative leave following Brown's death were reinstated by Pasquotank Sheriff Tommy Wooten in June. So April and May, they got paid vacation. And this article doesn't tell you that the salary was raised for the entire sheriff's department. I don't know why the Daily Beast doesn't have that info. Maybe people can send them an email to Mr. Justin Rollrick. Feel free to send them an email with that information. But again, as we knew from the jump, this was a planned execution. There is no possible way that only 2 of the officers knew Andrew was going to be unarmed and didn't tell the rest of the people. There is no way that the body camera footage from before and after the shooting doesn't exist. There is no way that when District Attorney Andrew Womble said that we couldn't let him leave alive, that meant, oh, well, you know, it would make us look bad if someone got... No, they went there to kill him. And there is no spinning. There's no amount of pretend or fantasy that will change those facts. Yeah, Daily Beast is definitely hit or miss. There were quite a few articles on the subject. I chose Daily Beast to be the one that I read. But, Daily Beast, I feel, usually does a decent job when it comes to police murders, I believe. And I, like, comparing them to, like, ABC or, like, local media that's completely in the pocket of the police that, like, print press releases as if they're news with no editorial. Fuck that. Oh, local radio station, just copy and paste press release from the sheriff's department. Breaking news. Daily Beast typically does not do that, so. Yeah, News and Observer also requires a paywall. So. Now you could argue that I, a North Carolina-based reporter and journalist, should just have access to the News and Observer anyway, but I'm not giving them money. I don't necessarily appreciate their perspective too much. But they should be giving me money. That's true. I mean, the News and Observer have used my footage, so they should be paying me. That's very true. This coffee tastes horrible. I don't know why either. Like, I feel like it's poison. Like, is it possible that I'm just drinking poison on accident? Here, I'm gonna get into the protest recap in a sec here, but again, folks, this is the case. Obviously, I've been following this since April 21st, right? So, of course, I'm gonna go in depth on it when there's updates. I can't even see through the coffee, that's how. And it doesn't look like there's anything in it. It just looks like really clean my coffee pot. Maybe I will. It's possible that someone else in the house made coffee and that they used like a different kind of coffee and that my brain is assuming it tastes like the kind of coffee that I use, but they used a different one. That's possible. That's possible for sure. I'm gonna put some water in it, though. Rinse it out a little bit. Because the taste is like really strong and it's not something I'm typically used to drinking, but... It's a little bit more palatable. It's a little bit more palatable. Palatable? Irritable? I'm irritable, folks. I'm irritable. Let me make sure I've got the day for this one right. Does coffee not taste bitter to me? I mean, I guess it's bitter, but I like the taste of coffee typically. But it should. I think someone else just made coffee, and it's just a different kind. That's what I think it is. A different kind, and it's like a little bit more concentrated. But anyway, let's get into the goddamn. Yesterday was day 205 of protests in the city of Elizabeth City, and as you can tell, a lot more people have showed up due to the recent news that broke yesterday of the fact that sheriff deputies involved in the shooting and killing of Andrew Brown Jr. tampered with their guns after they realized how badly they fucked up. I just covered this, so you can find that article in my feed as well. But again, Deputy Meads tampered with his weapon after shooting and assassinating Andrew Brown Jr. He knew that he fucked up. Another allegation that has now been confirmed is that the sheriff deputies that were there knew ahead of time that Andrew Brown Jr. was not armed. So they went in there with machine guns, assault rifles, went in there to kill an unarmed individual. They knew he was unarmed, and afterward they tampered with their guns. So a lot of people showed up yesterday given these new confirmed allegations. These are things that we had been circling around with for the last 205 days, but it's nice to get finally that confirmation. Yes, Andrew Brown Jr. was known not to be a violent person. He was known to not carry weapons around with him. That was so obvious in the community that the officers themselves knew that he was unarmed, and they still went in there anyway, and they still murdered him in cold blood and then lied about it. So yesterday a lot more people showed up, which is always good. I enjoy when people show up, and we had a little bit of ruckus. We walked all throughout. That one is that car stickers. I don't even understand that one. But anyway, we walked around downtown Elizabeth City into Eringhouse Street, and we had a pretty good demonstration. It lasted about half of an hour. A lot of familiar faces that are back, which is always nice to see. And again, this is unacceptable behavior from the police. They cannot and they will not go into these communities and murder people and think they can get away with it. Because that's how it's been since the inception of this country, is police go in and murder people and then lie about it and get away with it. The most prolific serial killers in American history are cops. Again, I always look at this case with George Floyd. The press release for George Floyd has said that the officers had nothing to do with it. The officers were the heroes. Someone died of an overdose, a medical incident, and the brave police officers tried to help. That's what the press release about George Floyd said. Is that what happened? No, because cell phone video confirmed that he was murdered. But the cops were willing and ready and actively engaged in the cover-up. They wanted to paint themselves as heroes for trying to save someone who was overdosing. Oh, the heroes. Look at them. They're so brave. Turned out it was a bunch of bullfuck. And that's exactly what happened here with Andrew Brown Jr. They've been lying and lying and lying since April 21st. Since 8:30 on April 21st. They have been engaged in lie after lie after lie. And their web of lies and their house of cards is finally falling the fuck apart. And it's good to see more and more people back out to show their support for the community during this time. Again, the police are the enemy. The police are always the enemy. Why? Again, if I murdered someone at Food Line, if I stabbed them in the neck with a box cutter, I wouldn't get a paid vacation. I wouldn't get a pay bump. I wouldn't sit with my fucking feet up on the coffee table watching Netflix. I would be in jail. So the fact that these officers are still on the force. Robert Morgan, one of the murderers who fired their weapons, goes to the Muddy Waters coffee shop almost every day. And that's right over here. By the way, if you look at my mouse, it's on this side of the street behind this lady's sign. Robert Morgan loves to get himself some coffee at Muddy Waters, right? Because it's right down the street from the sheriff's department. Why is that? Why do the people at Muddy Waters serve him? He is a very obviously well-known killer. If I owned a business and someone who murdered someone and got off came into my business, I would ask them to leave. That's not the case with the police, because if you ask a police officer to leave, who knows? They have unlimited ability to kill. They killed Andrew Brown Jr. and got away with it. Maybe they'll kill you next. These people are career criminals. And again, we're at this point now where technology exists, cell phones exist, to the point where we can show what's really happening in this world. We know that George Floyd did not die of an overdose or a medical incident. We know that Andrew Brown Jr. did not have weapons on him. He was not trying to run over the sheriff deputies. We know that to be a fact. But society has a lot of catching up to do. We have a lot to do before things are actually fair and just in this country. And so, protesting and doing demonstrations is good. But really, we need to have more community solidarity. Again, at the end of the day, people need to realize that the cops are the enemy, right? I don't give a shit, what sports team you like, what your personal politics are. I don't care what video games you like. I don't care, blah, 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 blah. I don't give a shit about what anyone does. No one deserves to be shot and killed by a police officer. I don't care if they're a serial drunk, if they're an abuser. No one deserves to be shot and killed by a police officer. No one. We have a system of courts. We have a judicial system for a reason. It exists. It's real. I know they threw me into that shit during the protests. Now, again, I got off because they had no case. But again, we do have a judicial system. It is real. So while that judicial system still exists, there is not a single person that needs to be shot and killed by a police officer, and especially not someone with 7 kids who is driving away and who is known to be unarmed and had no weapons on them. Sorry. That's unacceptable. So again, it's all about community solidarity, folks. We all need to come together. We all need to work together. We all need to help each other. No one is perfect. We need to help each other achieve our best possible potential. We need to work together and understand that the government that employs police that kill people is the enemy. Someone liking a different sports team, who cares? Someone being rude to you in high school, who cares? Get over it. Because we have actual career criminals patrolling the streets looking for their next victim. That takes precedence over everything else. I've been watching this stream / Andrea since around day 80, I think. And every couple of weeks, my kids ask me how it's going there with Andrew Brown Jr. And each time I struggle with how to respond to them, how nothing has changed on the cop side. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think that's cool that you found the stream in kind of the middle of it. And care enough to keep up. That's very nice. But yeah, I mean, it is. A lot of people ask me that too. Like, hey, are you still doing the protest thing? How's that going? It's like, yeah, I've been out there for 205 days in a row. The only time I missed days was when I had a family emergency, so I had to travel. But I've been out here every single day. And I will be until, something comes up, I guess. But yeah, I have got to let everyone know I am getting increasingly frustrated with petty, stupid bullshit. Like, with all of the garbage that's going on in the world, could you imagine possibly spending your time and energy hating gay people? Or, hating liberals? Imagine, with all of the bullshit going on in this fucking world, on this earth, on this planet, in this society, that you spend your time like holding grudges against people for, like, petty nonsense. Like, you got into an argument 7 years ago. Imagine, like, the things that divide people in this world are so goddamn dumb. Like, people will hate one another over the pettiest fucking garbage. And I'm getting sick of it, man. I'm getting so sick of stupid bullshit. Like, Elizabeth City is a city with 18,000 people. Why is it that for the last 100 days we've only had like 10 people every day? And now, like, we're seeing, oh, there's a lot more people. There's like 50 people. Like 50 people is supposed to be, oh, that's a good day. Where are the other 17,950 people that live in Elizabeth City? Why don't they give a fuck about what happened to Andrew Brown Jr.? Like, that to me, it's fascinating. I'm so sick of stupid bullshit. Like, yes, Andrew. Yes, absolutely. I'm just so sick of stupid bullshit. Like, why is it that it takes news to come out? And I'm not trying to shit on anyone specific. But why is it that, like, it takes news to come out about stuff that we all already knew to get people out again? Like, and again, I'm not, people have lives, but I understand that. Right? But, like, we had 50 people out yesterday. Where were they the other day? Where were they last week? Where were they last month? Where were they 2 months ago? 3 months ago? Like, why is it that it takes a news story to come out in national media for people to start caring again? Oh, because national media is out there now or something, and I got to get on camera for TV. And again, whatever gets you out there, that's good. I'm glad that, if you, like, that's fine with me. But it's like, I just think about it. These are the things that I think about. It's like, there's so much obvious blanket corruption. We've got a rapist running for mayor. Like, that's fucked up. Why does it take someone being murdered to bring people together to organize? And why does it take an update on that murder trial to bring people together and organize? Why can't people just be together and organizing at all times? And again, I know I am in a privileged position where I can do this for my work and I don't have to worry about that. But it's like, like, I'm, no one needs to have, like, oh, I need to be there 100% of the time. I don't know. To me, 17,950 people just didn't give a shit. They just, like, all right, like, let's assume half of them have to work at that time. Let's even assume 75% of those 17,950 people had to work at 5 p.m. Right? Where are the rest of the people that were at home? Why didn't people stop out of their cars and join the protest? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Yeah, but Alice Love, general ideas are because they worry about their friends and family will say and do. Why? Like, not only, but, like, also, I'm talking about their friends and family. Why don't their friends and family care that someone was murdered down the fucking street from them? $17K people didn't give a shit. Yeah, that's been a problem forever. I know, Umar. I know. Protests are useless and only worse in third world countries where people don't have that many distractions available. I wouldn't say that they're useless, but I do think that there's a lot in that concept where people are, especially in capitalist, late stage dystopian capitalist America, right? People are very easily distracted with gizmos and gadgets. I 100%. You know how many times over the last 205 days that I was like, maybe I'll skip today so that I could play some Path of Exile or something? You know, whatever. There's only a couple people that come out anyway. Maybe I'll get drunk and play some video games. I've thought about it. And then I think to myself, I usually only go out there for about an hour a day. If I can't do an hour a day, if I want to play a video game, I'll stay up late and I'll cut into my sleep schedule, you know? But then there's also a lot of people that don't have as much free time as me, right? And maybe they come home from work and their choices are go out to a protest or drink a beer and watch some TV. And I understand that. Like, I get escapism. I get it. Lead Striker and Umar, please don't yell at each other. That makes me sad. I understand what escapism is. I understand why people feel that they need it. But it's a feedback loop, right? When you get into that point, it's like, work was so brutal. I really need to drink a beer and relax. Then you do that the next day, the next day, the next day, and then 40 years go by and you've accomplished nothing with your life. And I'm not describing anyone here. But that's like to me, like, I get the distractions. I get it. We live in this extremely fucked up environment. But, like, also, are 17,950 people really just content with that? And that's another thing that that's why I harp so much on personal improvement, folks. Like, I harp so much on personal improvement, self-improvement. Because again, Tommy Wooten maybe is watching my show, but even if they are, they're not going to take anything I say seriously or yes, I will criticize the systems, but we have to criticize each other and ourselves and advocate for each other's growth. We have to get people to improve themselves, and we have to give them space to improve themselves. We have to give them guidance if they need it. We have to give people help where they need it. Right? Like, because no one else is. Like, when you're 18 or whatever, when you graduate school, if you do graduate, I dropped out personally, right? You're thrown into the world. No one helps you. No one's there to guide you. You're on your own, Jack. What? It's like when you start a new game in Fallout New Vegas and you just like are in the middle of the wasteland and you're like, I'm level 1, what do I do? And then you wander off and there's like these giant mosquitoes that are like level 74 and you're like, oh my god. But you don't know what the fuck's going on. No one gave you a guide. You don't have a handbook. You know? Like, why can't, like, you go up on the street and ask some random person, hey, I'm having a hard time today. Can you help me with this? And then, like, we're afraid to ask people for help because then, I'll get rejected. They'll think I'm crazy. Who gives a fuck? Like, I'm so sick of it, man. I'm so sick of people discriminating against others for stupid garbage. I'm so sick of people holding grudges against people for stupid garbage. I'm so sick of petty fucking nonsense that divides people. Like, I'm just so sick of it. Like, I'm just, like, again, like, my experience in these protests over the last 206 days has really changed my perspective on a lot of things. But one of the biggest things that has changed my perspective on is what gets people to care and what animates people. Like, what will snap someone out of their routine to participate in, you know, a protest or any form of organizing with their community, and how that animation can be reflected and turned into a de-animation. Like, how people can go from being animated to not giving a shit over the course of a couple weeks. You know, how people can fall back into routines. You know, and I like, and, you know, bear with me here. I kind of think that we are all addicted. We all have addictions. Think about alcoholism, right? Now, a lot of people, you know, yesterday I was drinking at 10 in the morning, right? You know, people can be sober for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And then all of a sudden, you know, they take a drink or whatever. They think, oh, what's going to happen? And then a couple weeks later, they're back on it. They're back right where they were. It's like 50 years went by, they didn't have a drink, and now they're right back to when they were an alcoholic. Right? Think about that with people relapsing on any kind of drug. Right? That is most Americans, but with our routine. With our, I go to work, I get home, I crack a beer, I watch TV, I play a video game, I go to bed. Right? And so people can get animated. Oh shit, let's go and do a protest for a couple months. But then, eventually, they fall back into that routine. Right? And it's like home sweet home. And then like the first week, it feels super good to just chill and watch TV again. You know, wow, I did so much work. I deserve it. I deserve the break. And then that break turns into 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, why don't people become full-time activists when they get animated in this way? Well, the seductiveness of our society and the distractions and the garbage and the addictions that we have prevent us from staying in this activist mindset. All right, I'm now glancing at the chat after my soliloquy, and I'm seeing people talk about me in a nice way, so hold the phone, folks. Oh, Lord. The only way to get through to folks is one-on-one. I love having, like, one-on-one in-depth conversations with strangers. Because, like, when you have a group dynamic, people will default to like a social like hierarchy thing where, oh, I need to look tough for the group, or I need to say something I don't really believe for the group, so the group will think this. There's so much posturing in group scenarios. People say things and do things. They don't think about things. Oh, I need to get at the cool kids' lunch table. I want to be, the lunch table with the cool kids that bring gum to class. I want to be at that lunch table. Right? Group dynamics suck fucking shit in a lot of instances unless people are well organized. I love one-on-one conversations because you can really learn a lot about the human condition from a one-on-one conversation, and then people will often like be extremely real with you when you have a one-on-one conversation. That's very hard to have in a group dynamic. I only came out a few years ago. I'm nearly 40, and I grew up with all that religious BS. I hate religion. Like, my family was never super religious, but I definitely understand how people that go, like, you know, religion is just one of many kind of things that hold us back as a society. It's like one of the most obviously dumb ones, I think. You know? Like, oh, there's a magical sky daddy and talking snakes and poisonous apples, and they all mean that you shouldn't be gay. What? Like it's like Santa Claus, but for stupid adults, you know? Like, oh, Santa Claus is fake. Next thing you'll tell me God's fake. I remember I said that in front of my family once, and they were like, and again, my family wasn't, you know, they're not terribly religious. Like, it's not like they go to church all the time, and they're like, you know, they identify in a lot of ways as religious, but they're not like, you know, they're not those crazy ones. And so, like, but, like, yeah, it's Santa Claus for adults. And it teaches them some really stupid fucking shit. But there's a lot of shit in our culture and society that makes people hate each other. Makes people hate themselves. That makes people hate other people. And we need to get over it. We need to fucking get over it. Like, we lived in a society, right, where we live in a society where 30 years ago, there was, like mainstream... like, ways to deal with gay people was don't ask, don't tell. Like, do you remember that? I don't, because I wasn't really conscious when I was 5, right? But in the 1990s, gay people were like, yeah, you know, I would rather just not know you're gay. Like, that was like society's solution to gay people. Like, we tried killing them, we tried converting therapy, none of that's working. So our next solution... don't ask, don't tell. Yeah, I would like you as long as I know that you're not gay. So don't tell me and I'm not going to ask. But like that was our solution for like 15, 20 years. Don't ask, don't, like, what the fuck? But there are people that grow up with that shit. There are people that grow up during that era and think, oh fuck, I can't tell people that I'm gay. Because if they do, who knows what would happen? That's not on you, buddy. That's on them. They're the bad motherfucker. And guess what? That's it. Like, you can't just, like, oh, someone doesn't like gay people. Let's kill them. Let's get rid of them. Let's throw them in a cage. You got to make that motherfucker learn. You got to teach them. Yeah, gay people aren't going to hurt you. Trans people aren't going to hurt you. Black people aren't going to hurt you. You know what I mean? Like, we gotta all be more compassionate to one another. If someone's wrong, you have to be able to tell them why they're wrong. And yeah, sometimes they're still gonna be wrong. Sometimes, like, you're not gonna be the one that breaks them out of that cycle. But the whole point in telling someone that they're wrong is because you want them to change their mind. That's the whole fucking point. That's incredible, Andrew. And that's another thing. Like, people overcorrect a lot. That's another thing. I'm just going off in a philosophical analysis here. People overcorrect. Like, while we're talking about the doorknobs, right? A lot of people realize that they were blinded by capitalism or whatever, consumerism, and then they really like, oh, how dare I fall for that? And I know this experience from the atheist thing, because when I was a teenager, that's when, like, Sam Harris was getting popular. And when I was a teenager, I got really hardcore into the, oh, God's not real. Wow. Now that I realize God isn't real, I'm an ultra atheist. I'm a super duper atheist, right? And so I got caught up in that. And that's like a thing going on with left-wing politics now. And that's how you get like the doorknob kind of motherfuckers. You know what I mean? Where it's like, people feel like they've been lied to their whole lives, so they go really far in the opposite direction and end up making fools of themselves without like actually fixing a lot of the root problems with their analysis. You know, like, and it's basically the same thing as, like, the new atheist movement in, like, the mid-2000s or whatever. Because and I get that. Like, when you really feel like you've been lied to your whole life, and you start to find, like, out that a lot of things you've been told are not true and all that kind of stuff, and then you feel like all of a sudden you're an authority. Like, I figured out God's not real. I figured out capitalism's bad. I figured out the United States is an imperialist, superpower that, works on the backs of enslaved people in other countries and stuff, right? And so, when you figure that out, you really want to let everyone know. And then, then your bad communication skills come to fruition, right? Like, you never learned how to communicate with people. You don't know how to deprogram people, but you really feel good about it. And so you go around and you yell at people and attack people and harass people for not being as woke on stupid bullshit. And again, a lot of this is, like, you see a lot of doorknobs. Most of those people, force the voters, are people that have not been left-wing for that long. And that's not a problem. It's not a problem if you've only been a left-winger for 5 years. That's not a problem. The problem is when you decide to, like, go around and parade around line and just harass the shit out of people endlessly all day, every day, thinking you're, like, ultra commie superstar. That's the problem. And reminds me a lot of the Sam Harris atheism stuff. But I've got an example, actually. Let's talk about this, folks. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's fucking go. So, Jackson Hinkle, I debated this guy, I think 2 days ago now. And in our debate was about Netflix workers and whether or not trans rights are important. That was our debate. Are trans rights important? Jackson Hinkle said no. Trans rights are distracting from the working class, and, like, working class people don't care about trans people, and we need to center working class problems and fuck trans people, they're irrelevant. That was Jackson Hinkle's basic argument, right? But what we argued about a lot was based on this concept of PMC. Oh no, he deleted the tweet. Oh! Folks, he deleted the tweet. Alert, I got it open in a tab, though. I was looking at this before the show. The tweet is gone. The tweet is gone. He deleted it. All right. But great for me, because I've got it open in another tab. And so he tweeted this garbage that said academics. Now, again, this is basically, he's doing a tweet storm about how he beat me in a debate. And so he's rehashing a lot of his arguments online because he owned me in a debate, apparently. I didn't even know that we were keeping score. And he was, like, writing down a point list, like, the whole time. And he was reading from a notepad. I beat you on this. I'm a superstar. Look at me. Right? And I'm just like, what, bro? Right? But anyway, so then he tweets out this stupid garbage. Academics, teachers, social workers, engineers, managers, nurses, and Netflix writers are not working class. Now, what is working? Now, his politics. He told me in a debate 2 days ago that the working class people are the only people that matter. And if you try to even maybe shed light on any issue at all that's not directly related to working class economic problems, you're wasting people's time. Now, in his world, teachers are PMC. And therefore, they don't matter. Teachers. Right? But it's also really funny because we see this. It turns out that he just copied and pasted, right, from Wikipedia. Academics, teachers, social workers. Academics, teachers, social workers. Engineers, managers, nurses. Engineers, managers, nurses, right? And Netflix writers. So again, and that was what our conversation was about, Netflix in specific. So we copied and pasted from Wikipedia and then added in Netflix workers at the end. right? Because he had to like get that, oh, I beat Andrea at a debate. And then he got ratioed legendarily. Again, I saw this morning. People were sending this to me because he got destroyed so hard. And it turns out he deleted the tweet. So that's really funny. That's really funny that he deleted the tweet. Apparently, Shuan had replied to him. Oh, what did Shuan had reply to? I wonder. You know you're not doing so well when Shoe on Head is owning you in an internet debate. Like you know that you are not doing a great job. When Shoe on Head has a better take than you. Like, let's be honest. Now again, I don't understand what's white collar about being a social worker. Like, do you know the shit social workers and elementary school teachers go through? The idea, right, that people online, podcaster, trust fund babies, silver spoon, rich people online are going to go out there and try to say a teacher that makes $25K a year that has to spend like a quarter of their own paycheck on school supplies because that's not well funded enough at all. So they really, in reality, are only taking maybe $18K a year, right? And they don't even have work during half the year, so they can't get paid, right? But they also have to do work almost all day because they grade papers at home. That's not really working class. You're a white collar PMC liberal. What? Yeah, you're a social worker. You help dysfunctional families get their shit together and make it so that kids don't have to live with abusive fathers or whatever. Yeah, and then you also you're on call all the time, right? As a social worker. I know a lot of social workers. They're on call almost all the time. They will get phone calls at 3 a.m. because there's a family dispute, right? And like a kid will call them because they have no one else to talk to. And so they're on call all the time and they don't make that much money. They're white collar workers. They're PMC liberals. But again, Shoe on Head is having a better take than Jackson Inkle's original take that they're not working class. Like, these people are fucking stupid, man. They're so fucking stupid. And again, Jackson Inkle is doing this bizarre, like, Netflix writers are bad and they're white-collar, super-duper PMC liberals because of our dumb fuck debate. Where, like, again, I was just chilling. I'm not gonna lie, during my debate with Jackson Inkle, I was pretty drunk. I was smoking weed on camera. I was not taking it that seriously. But apparently Jackson Hinkle took it so seriously that he's still fucking trying to, like, prove that he won the debate. And in doing so, he got epically ratioed online and deleted his own tweet because he feels dumb. This is how you know he lost the debate. Right? When he posted on Twitter the night of that I won, look at me, I'm a winner, he got ratioed epic style. Right? And then the next day, he writes this stupid shit and got ratioed epic style into deleting his own tweets. You know this guy's a loser. You know that you're a loser when every time you tell people how much of a winner you are, that you get mocked relentlessly. Right? But I got this comment that I wanted to read in regards to the debate that I had with Mr. Hinkle. And this is a comment I got this morning. So this is from Luis in Hyrule. I was in Jackson's audience on YouTube, and you won me over on this debate. This is the first time I heard of you, and your other videos are great for highlighting the issues that trans people face. I am not trans, but I highly respect those who are, and also you are extremely attractive, too. We don't agree on everything, but that's okay. You are doing a great job to unite the left-wing ideologies to stand up against the elites. I'm definitely subscribing. So, folks, people ask me, why bother debating Jackson Hinkle? Why bother? This is why. Now, again, this is not the only comments I got. I was reading some yesterday as well that I got kind comments. Right? If I can get one person to realize that Jackson Hinkle is maybe not the greatest source of information and that maybe trans people actually do matter. Like, again, Jackson Hinkle's the kind of guy that goes to a Black Lives Matter protest and says, why aren't you protesting for a minimum wage? Because social issues are divisive. Right? So, again, this is what makes it worth it. This is why I talk to stupid people. This is why I talk about stupid people. Because, again, I care about... I care about left-wing values. I care about bringing people together. So that's what I care about. That's my goal. And again, I consider it a win when at least one person thinks about something that I said and changes their mind for the better. That's a win. That's a win. Right? But when 5 people do that, when 10 people do that, when 20 people do it, then that's not even a win. That's just that's a giant win. That's a huge W, as the kids say. But anyway, I think that this... Have you seen anyone go into Jackson Hinkle's stream from my chat and say, hey, Jackson, you really owned that tranny? Because that's what Jackson Hinkle's audience is talking about. They're talking about how Jackson Hinkle destroyed the tranny in an internet debate. That's what his chat's doing. Have you seen anyone from my stream go to his stream and say, wow, you did a great job really throwing that tranny in the dumpster? No, you haven't, because he lost. You know that you're the winner of something when someone else's viewer base goes, wow, my guy was so bad that I have to go to your stream and publicly apologize on their behalf. That's how bad you know that you lost. So I just want to say Jackson Hinkle's not having a good time on the internet. And I think that it's really funny that in between the start of my show and now he deleted the tweet, because that made my segment way funnier, right? Like if I did the show, right, and instead of doing the Andrew Brown Jr. recap first, I did the Jackson Hinkle one first, right? It would have been way less funny. But I'm glad that I gave him enough time to delete his bullshit, because that's hilarious. And you know that this guy he's losing epic style. So that's all I have to say. Fuck Jackson Hinkle. And again, I'm fully willing to debate him again. I mean, if he thinks that I'm such an easy layup win, why doesn't he debate me again? Let's debate on, I don't know, literally anything. I'm down to debate him on anything. Like vaccine mandates, whatever. Let's have any conversation anytime. So feel free to let Jackson know. Again, he destroyed me, right? I got fucking annihilated in our debate, epic style. He's a mass W gainer. Like, you look at, like, you know, his wall and it's W after W. If he wants another easy win, I'm willing. Let's have at it. So, but yeah, he's not going to do that. Because he's a beta male. So, what are you going to do? I'm sorry I had all those hateful messages. Andrea, if people like Jackson Hinkle had received a percentage of the hate you received, he would be a blubbering mess. I mean, that's the thing. Is like, for me, and again, I'm not trying to sound like, oh, Andrea's a badass. Because I'm not. I'm a loser. I have panic attacks sometimes. It happens, you know. But for me, like, the pinnacle of what anyone can do to hurt me on any level was when I got swatted. And a SWAT team beat the shit out of my mom because a neo-Nazi on the internet, who's now in jail, by the way, so fuck yourself, because a neo-Nazi on the internet didn't like that I was trans. They called a SWAT team to my house to beat the shit out of my mom, right? So if someone calls me a tranny on the internet, I don't give a shit. That is irrelevant to me. I think it's funny, more so, right? Once you experience something like that, you realize just how pointless and silly a lot of these internet comments are. Like, I don't give a shit if someone's going to purposefully, you know, dead name me in someone else's chat. That doesn't matter to me. To me, I'm only going to use that as further evidence that this guy is probably not so good as a leftist. If I'm a leftist and half of my chat room is calling people a tranny on the other end, like, if I debated someone, right, who was like an immigrant activist or something, and half of my chat was calling them an illegal alien during the debate, I would immediately apologize and turn the chat off and ban them all. Immediately. And like, look, we've got a dumb fuck in the chat right now. Right? So, again, like, but Jackson Hinkle, that's fine with him. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine with him. If I had, like, a Black Lives Matter activist in my chat, and my chat was just full of racial slurs and hate speech, I would be embarrassed. I would publicly apologize, and I would ban everyone in the chat who did that. You know, like, it's not hard to just be a good person. It really isn't. And so, but again, at the same time, people that do the kind of things that I do, people that are out there and they're activists and they try and they're protesters and they go for these kind of things, we get a lot of hate speech. Like, we get a lot of attacks. Like, again, I've gotten death threats during these protests, especially when my address... Remember when the cops doxed me? Remember when the Pasquotank County Sheriff's Department posted my address publicly on the internet? The last time my address was doxed, I got a SWAT team that beat the shit out of my mom. Right? So I'm going to be honest. I was freaking the fuck out. Now, fortunately, I'm still here. Right? So, like, you know, but there were a lot, like, during that weekend, when the sheriffs doxed me, I had people come to my house. Right? I had people scream at me through trucks in front of my house. Right? How's my mom? My mom died a couple years ago. So, like, you know, that was pretty fucking scary. I'm not gonna lie. Right? But once you deal with this kind of stuff, once you, like, actually know what it's like to be the target of actual abuse, someone, like, you know, I'm not fazed at all about dumb motherfuckers in the chat room. So, like, for me, I just, like, it's purely, like, it's just a reflection of Jackson Hinkle's program. Like, it's just, that's all it is. Like, again, if my chat had people in it that were attacking gay people all day, I mean, most of my chat's gay, let's be honest. I'm looking at y'all. Right? But let's assume, right, like, someone comes in my chat and attacks gay people in the chat. I'm not going to handle that. I'm not going to accept that. I might not ban them instantly. I might make fun of them for a little bit, you know, milk it a little bit, make some content out of it, make people laugh. But, I mean, that's just not acceptable. It's just not acceptable. And anyone that does that is just ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, you know, say that Jackson Hinkle hasn't received death threats or abuse, or anything like that. But, you know, I would wager that I have had a little bit rougher of a time than he has. So that's all I'm saying. That's my educated guess on the situation. Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, I feel like straight people in my chat should be a protected minority group. One of these days, folks. All right, let me ask you something. And I'm going to stop the stream soon, so think about this. Let me know how you like the idea of it. Should I do, like, a Google Forms survey of the stream chat, like, for a week or so? Right? You fill out the survey. Because I'm, and you can make it anonymous, too. But I'm genuinely curious what the demographics are that watch my stream. Like, because I would be very shocked if, like, less than 75% of the audience is gay. Like, I would like to know that. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be very curious to know about that. You know, and that to me is good. I mean, I want that number to be higher. In fact, hold up. This is something else I had in my bookmarks. I was thinking about doing in today's show, but let's talk about this. Folks, we got an extra segment.
The country, being an American, 15% of millennials say they are proud to be an American. 15% say they are proud to be an American. As I mentioned, 1/3 of millennials describe themselves as being LGBTQ, 39%. 39%. It's 3 times the proportion identified among the combined older adults in the generation. This is the gayest generation in American history. And that's not a slur, by the way. It's not a slander. It's just the way it is. Someone's going to say, oh, that's a pejorative. They're the gayest generation in American history. It's what the study says.
So I would like to, first of all, tell Charlie Kirk that not everyone who is LGBTQ is gay. Actually, everyone who is gay, but not everyone who is LGBTQ is gay, right? So that needs to be understood. There is a distinction. It's like all rectangles are or not all squares, or not all rectangles are squares. That's the one. But all squares are rectangles, right? So it's like not all LGBTQ people are gay, but gay people are gay, you know? So that needs to be understood. And then also, that's a huge win. 39% of millennials are gay. I don't know what study that's from. I don't know if that's like a sound statistic. But damn, bro, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. But, I think that the percentage of people in my chat room that are LGBTQ or gay, I think is higher than 39%. That's my goal. 39%. That's like a bare minimum for me. If I had 39%, I would be disappointed in this chat. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it's really funny. The gayest generation, folks. The gayest fucking generation. That's a huge win. God damn. I mean, honestly, if you're straight, I honestly think that being straight's a mental illness. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I know I'm gonna tap this on to the end of this segment so that eventually a right winger is gonna find it and get really mad at me. I do think being straight's a mental illness. I do. Like, imagine, right? Like imagine not wanting to fuck anyone and everyone at all times. Like, as far as I'm concerned, right? Like, sex feels good. Anyone can participate in any kind of sexual, thing. If you like someone and they like you, why not fuck? It's just like playing video games, Like, we're out here just trying to live our lives, entertain ourselves a little bit. That's just my take. As a proud pansexual, that's my take. So I'm just throwing that out there. But, straight people, that's weird. I mean, it's weird. I mean, being straight is weird. I gotta be, like, you can have a preference, that's one thing, but being straight is weird. Like, that's all, like, so I'm just throwing that out there. I think heterosexuality is a mental illness. So that's my hot take. And I'm very serious when I say that. I'm deadly serious. I'm not joking. So anyway, that's the show for today. I see Jackson Hinkle's audience is in full force at this moment. But, is when he canceled for being heterophobic. I'm very heterophobic. What about Max? Max is a dog. Maxie! Look at him. Max! You want to come on the camera? Max! Look at him. Look at, he's thinking about it. Come on, buddy. You're a stretchy dog. You're like Gumby. Come over here. Nope, he's not. I woke him up from his nap and he's like, I want to play with my toys. Wait. Hold the phone, folks. Max! Max! Oh my god. You can't even see him, but he's... Oh, wait. He's coming. Oh, he's stretching. Oh, there he is, folks. That is Max the dog. Look at this. Oh. Look at the doggy. Look at the doggy. Ah.
vote, sure was a failure. Force the 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 vote, sure was a failure.
What's the most important issue in the governor's race here in Virginia?
Force the vote, sure
Getting
was a
back
failure.
to the basics of
Force the vote,
teaching
sure was a
children,
failure.
not teaching them
Force
critical
the vote,
race
sure was a
theory.
failure.
And what is critical race theory?
Force the vote, sure was a failure.
I'm not going to get into
Force
the
the vote, sure
specifics
was a
of it.
failure.
And
I'm
Force
not
the
going to
vote,
get
sure was a
into the
failure.
specifics of
what is critical
Force the
race
vote,
theory?
sure was a failure.
And what is critical race
Force the
theory?
vote, sure was a
And what
failure.
is critical race theory?
Force the vote, sure was a failure.
knowledge on it.
Force the
I don't
vote, sure was a
have
failure.
that much knowledge on
Force
it.
the vote,
I
sure
don't
was a
have
failure.
that much knowledge
Force the
on
vote,
it.
sure
I
was a
don't
failure.
have that much
Force the
knowledge
vote,
on
sure was
it.
a
But it's
failure.
something that I'm not.
Force the
that I
vote,
don't
sure
care.
was a failure.
What's the most important
Force the
issue
vote, sure was
in the
a
governor's
failure.
race here in Virginia?
Force the vote,
Getting
sure was
back
a
to the
failure.
basics of
Force the
teaching
vote, sure
children,
was a
not
failure.
teaching them critical
Force the
race
vote,
theory.
sure was a failure. Force the vote, sure was a failure. Force the vote, sure was a
Everybody
failure.
comes in your grandmother
Force the vote,
ear.
sure was a failure.
Everybody comes
Force
in
the
your
vote, sure
grandmother
was a
ear.
failure.
Everybody comes in your
Force the vote,
grandmother
sure was a
ear.
failure.
Father, your mother,
Force the
your
vote,
brother,
sure was a
your
failure.
cousins.
Force the vote, sure was a failure. Force the vote, sure was a failure. Force the vote, sure was a failure. Force the vote, sure
Come on.
was a failure.
Don't be a bitch.
Force the vote, sure was a
My
failure.
other debate flaked out on me today. I was supposed to. What? Actually, sorry, she did not flake out on me. I flaked out on
Sure was a failure.
her
Force
because
the vote, sure was
I
a
said I
failure.
can't do it later.
Force the vote, sure was a failure. Force the vote, sure was a failure. Force
Dumb
the vote,
people,
sure was a
liberal
failure.
people.
Force the
Dumb
vote, sure
people,
was a
liberal
failure.
people.
Force
Dumb
the vote, sure
people,
was a
liberal
failure.
people.
Force
Dumb
the vote,
people,
sure was a
liberal
failure.
people.
Force the vote, sure was a failure. Force the vote, sure was a failure.